Have you ever walked into your grandpa's garage and thought the man was either a genius or completely out of his mind? Before there were organizing blogs and home improvement shows, country folks were solving storage problems with whatever they had lying around. Today we're looking at 30 oddly useful hillbilly storage tricks that prove the best ideas don't come from a store, they come from a shed out back. Let's start with coffee cans nailed under shelves. This was the backbone of every country workshop in America. Grandpa would take an empty Folgers or Maxwell House can, nail the plastic lid to the underside of a wooden shelf, then screw the can right up into it. Suddenly, he had a row of hanging storage containers for nails, screws, bolts, and washers. You could see exactly what was inside, and the cans cost nothing. Back in the 1960s and 1970s, those old metal coffee cans were built like tanks, and some of them are still hanging in garages today. Hardware stores now sell fancy rotating organizers for $15 a pop, but for decades, the coffee can method worked better. Some garages had 20 or 30 of them, lining a single shelf, each one labeled with a strip of masking tape and a grease pencil. The man who built that system could find a 5/16 bolt faster than you could find your car keys. And the best part was that every time you finished a can of coffee, you had a brand new storage container waiting for you. Pantyhose for storing onions. This one looked absolutely ridiculous hanging from a nail in the pantry, but it worked like a dream. You'd drop an onion into the toe of an old pair of pantyhose, tie a knot above it, drop in another, tie another knot, and keep going until the whole leg was full. Then you'd hang it in the cellar or a cool, dark closet. The nylon mesh let air circulate around each onion, keeping them dry and fresh for up to 8 months. When you needed one, you just snipped below the bottom knot and out it rolled. Even Julia Child reportedly used this trick. The synthetic nylon repels moisture, which is the #1 enemy of stored onions, and the knots keep each bulb separated so one bad onion doesn't ruin the rest. It worked for garlic and shallots too. Grandma knew exactly what she was doing, and she didn't need Pinterest to figure it out. Mason jars screwed to the underside of shelves, similar to the coffee can trick, but even more practical. You'd screw the metal lid ring to the bottom of a shelf, fill a mason jar with whatever small items you needed, and twist the jar up into the ring. Workshops, sewing rooms, and kitchens all over rural America had these hanging from every flat surface. Ball and cur jars were already in every country home thanks to canning season, so the supply was endless. The clear glass meant you could see exactly what was inside without opening a thing, and the jars were sturdy enough to last for decades. Some old-timers even screwed them into the exposed rafters of unfinished basements. You'd walk downstairs and see 40 jars of sorted hardware glowing in the overhead light. It was like a hardware store hanging upside down from the ceiling. Buttons, fishing hooks, spare fuses, you name it, everything had a jar. Old rain gutters as shelf organizers. When a section of aluminum rain gutter came off the house, it never went to the dump. It went straight to the garage or the kids' room. Cut to length and screwed to the wall, a gutter section became the perfect shallow shelf for spray paint cans, small hand tools, rolls of tape, or spice jars. In kids' rooms, creative parents mounted them on the wall as forward-facing bookshelves so little ones could see the covers and pick their own bedtime stories. The lip on the front kept everything from sliding off, and the whole setup cost absolutely nothing. A 10-foot section of old gutter could give you 3 or 4 useful shelves without spending a single dime. Some folks even used them in the kitchen for storing foil and plastic wrap boxes right under the upper cabinets. Before we move on, I'd like to ask a small favor. If you're enjoying this trip down memory lane, a like and a subscribe truly helps us continue making these videos for you. We really appreciate it. Egg cartons for sorting hardware. Every country workshop had a stack of old egg cartons sitting on the workbench, and it wasn't because anyone was too lazy to throw them away. Those 12 little compartments were perfect for sorting screws by size, separating different types of nails, or keeping small parts organized during a complicated repair job. Styrofoam cartons were preferred because they were sturdier and didn't fall apart when a greasy bolt landed in them, but the cardboard ones worked too. You could write on the lid with a marker, close it up, and stack them on a shelf when you were done. It was the original parts organizer, completely free every time you finished a dozen eggs. Some folks had entire shelves of labeled egg cartons going back years. Beats spending $20 on a plastic parts box any day. Bungee cords stretched across a wall for ball storage. This one was pure hillbilly genius, and once you saw it, you couldn't believe nobody had thought of it sooner. You'd screw a few eye hooks into the garage wall and stretch bungee cords horizontally across them, spacing them about 8 inches apart. Then you'd stuff basketballs, soccer balls, footballs, and kickballs behind the cords. The elastic held everything snug against the wall, completely off the floor and easy to grab when the kids wanted to play. No more tripping over sports equipment every time you walked into the garage to get to the lawnmower. The whole setup cost about $3 in hardware and took 10 minutes to install. It held a dozen balls without taking up a single square foot of floor space, and even the kids could actually put them back because it was so ridiculously simple to use. Muffin tins for sorting small parts. Old muffin tins from the kitchen found a second life in the workshop, and it was a better life at that. Each cup was perfect for separating different sizes of washers, nuts, bolts, or wood screws while you were in the middle of a project. You could carry the whole tin to wherever you were working, set it on the fender of the truck, and nothing rolled away or got mixed up. Some folks would stack 2 or 3 tins on a shelf for permanent small parts storage. A beat-up muffin tin that was no good for baking anymore was worth its weight in gold out in the shop. Mini muffin tins were especially handy for really tiny items like set screws and cotter pins. PVC pipe scraps as tool holders. Leftover pieces of PVC pipe from a plumbing job became some of the best tool storage ever invented, and no country workshop worth its salt threw them away. Cut a section at a 45-degree angle, screw it to a pegboard or wall, and suddenly you had a perfect holder for screwdrivers, paintbrushes, pencils, or zip ties. Larger diameter pipe cut into short sections could hold drills, levels, or bar clamps. Country folks would line an entire wall with different sizes of PVC scraps, and every single tool had its own dedicated slot. Some people even drilled a row of holes down the length of a fat pipe to create individual holders for drill bits, like a homemade flute. The whole thing cost practically nothing and worked better than anything you could buy from the hardware store for $30 or $40. 5-gallon buckets with scrap wood dividers. Those orange Home Depot buckets or white drywall compound pails were everywhere on a country property. You'd find them holding tools, storing feed, collecting rainwater, and sitting in the back of every pickup truck. Some clever folks took it a step further by cutting plywood dividers to fit inside, creating separate compartments for different tools or supplies. Others drilled holes near the rim and threaded a rope through for a sturdier handle. Stack them on homemade wooden shelves, and you had a complete garage storage system that was waterproof, stackable, and practically indestructible. Drop one off a roof and it barely dents. Try that with a fancy plastic organizer from the store. Bread ties and tape labels for identifying cords. Every junk drawer in rural America had a collection of bread ties, and some genius figured out they were perfect for labeling electrical cords behind the television and entertainment center. Wrap a bread tie around the plug end of each cord and write on the flat part with a permanent marker. Phone charger, lamp, radio, fan, whatever it was. No more crawling behind the furniture, squinting at identical black cords trying to figure out which one goes where when something needs unplugging. Simple, completely free. and genuinely useful. Some people used different colored ties for different rooms or different family members. It was the kind of idea that made everyone who heard it say, "Why didn't I think of that?" Magnetic strips for tool storage. Before fancy tool organizers and shadow boards existed, country mechanics would grab a magnetic knife strip from the kitchen and screw it to the workshop wall. Suddenly, every wrench, screwdriver, socket, pliers, and pair of scissors had a home right there in plain sight. You could see every tool at a glance, grab what you needed with one hand, and stick it right back when you were done. Some shops had 3 or 4 magnetic strips running the entire length of a workbench. A strip that cost $5 at the dollar store could hold $50 worth of tools. Some people even mounted them inside cabinet doors for hidden knife storage in the kitchen, which freed up an entire drawer. Wooden pallets as garden tool racks. Free wooden pallets from behind the feed store or the lumber yard became instant garden tool storage. Stand one up against the shed wall, and the gaps between the slats were perfectly sized for sliding in the handles of rakes, shovels, hoes, and brooms. Some people would screw the pallet right to the wall for extra stability and safety. Add a few nails along the top edge for hanging smaller hand tools like trowels and pruning shears, and you had a complete garden organization system for the price of a few screws and about 15 minutes of work. It wasn't going to win any design awards, but it worked every single time and kept everything off the ground. Old garden hose as a blade protector. When the garden hose finally sprung too many leaks to keep patching, it still had life left in it. Cut a short length, slid it down one side with a utility knife, and slide it right over the blade of a handsaw, axe, machete, or any other sharp tool. The rubber gripped tight and protected the cutting edge from getting dinged up in a crowded toolbox or on a shelf. More importantly, it protected your fingers from getting sliced when you reached blindly for something. One old 50-foot hose could protect a dozen different blades, and it stayed put without needing any tape or fasteners. Free, effective, and practically invisible. Toilet paper rolls for cord and cable storage. This is one of those tricks that sounds completely ridiculous until you try it and realize it's brilliant. Fold up an extension cord, phone charger cable, or set of earbuds, slide the coil inside an empty toilet paper roll, and toss it in a drawer or storage bin. No more tangled messes. Write the cord length or the name of the device on the outside of the roll with a marker. Some folks would stand the rolls upright in a shoebox, creating a neat little filing system for every cable in the house. It was especially handy in the junk drawer where everything used to end up in one giant frustrating knot. Paper towel rolls worked for larger extension cords the same way. Which of these tricks did your family use? Share your favorite storage memory in the comments. Ice cube trays for tiny item storage. Old ice cube trays that got cracked, warped, or just replaced by the fancy new refrigerator found a second career in the sewing room, craft area, or workshop. Each little compartment was the perfect size for buttons, beads, straight pins, thumbtacks, paper clips, earring backs, or any other small item that liked to disappear into the black hole of a junk drawer. Stack a few trays in a drawer, and suddenly everything had its own home. The rigid plastic kept items separated better than any bag or jar ever could, and you could see exactly what was in each slot at a glance. Some people even labeled each compartment with a tiny strip of tape. Shoe organizer on the back of a door. Hanging canvas shoe organizers became one of the most versatile storage solutions in the country home, even though most folks never put a single shoe in one. Hung on the back of a pantry door, each pocket could hold spice bottles, seasoning packets, or bags of snacks. In the bathroom, they held cleaning supplies and toiletries. In the garage, cans of spray paint and small hand tools. In the craft room, yarn, scissors, ribbon, and glue sticks. One $3 shoe organizer from the dollar store could replace $20 worth of shelving and it used space on the back of a door that was otherwise going completely to waste. You could even see everything at once without opening a single cabinet. Pie tins, screwed to the wall for disc storage. Here's a beauty that most people have never seen. Take an old aluminum pie tin, cut it in half with tin snips, and screw the halves to the shop wall with the curved side facing out. You now had perfect little half-moon pockets for storing sanding discs, circular saw blades, abrasive wheels, and cut-off discs. The rounded tin matched the shape of the discs perfectly, and the edges stayed protected instead of getting bent up in a drawer. Some folks used heavy-duty paper plates screwed to the wall if they didn't have spare pie tins handy. Either way, it kept those loose discs organized and within arm's reach. Pool noodles for fishing rod storage. Somebody, somewhere, probably after one too many beers on the dock, looked at a pool noodle and saw a fishing rod rack. And the idea spread through lakeside communities like wildfire. Cut a pool noodle in half lengthwise, screw it to the garage ceiling or a high wall with a flat side against the surface, and cut slits every 4 inches along the rounded side. Slide the tips of your fishing rods into the slits, and suddenly you had a ceiling-mounted rod rack that cost about $2 and maybe 20 minutes of your time. The foam gripped the rods gently without scratching the finish or bending the guides, and you could fit a dozen rods in a space barely 3 feet long. A store-bought rod rack runs $40 or more and doesn't work any better. The pool noodle version was proof that the best ideas really do come from the simplest thinking. Old belt rack for wrench organization. A belt rack or tie rack from the bedroom closet became a perfect wrench organizer when it moved to the shop. Mount it on the wall and hang your wrenches the same way you would hang belts, each one individually and organized by size. Some folks found them at thrift stores or yard sales for $1 or $2. It was cleaner and more accessible than digging through a toolbox drawer, and the wrenches hung at eye level so you could spot the right size instantly. If you were really particular, you'd outline each wrench on the wall behind it with a marker so you knew instantly which one was missing and exactly where it belonged. Tension rods under the kitchen sink. This trick was so simple it almost felt like cheating, but once you tried it, you wondered how you ever lived without it. Stick a couple of spring-loaded tension rods under the kitchen sink, running side to side, and suddenly you could hang spray bottles from the rods by their triggers. This freed up the entire floor of the cabinet for buckets, sponges, scrub brushes, and larger cleaning supplies. 2 tension rods cost about $3 total and instantly doubled your usable storage space under that sink. Country women figured this out decades before it became a trending organizational tip on the internet, and it works just as well in the bathroom cabinet or the laundry room. No drilling, no tools, no permanent changes to the cabinet. Rigid foam insulation as a tool pin cushion. Grab a scrap of thick, rigid foam insulation board left over from a house project, glue it to a piece of plywood, and screw it to the wall above the workbench. Now you had a giant pin cushion for drill bits, awls, pencils, hobby knives, Allen wrenches, scratch awls, and anything else with a pointed end. Just push them right into the foam. They stayed put, stayed visible, and stayed organized. No hunting through drawers or magnetic strips. One piece of 2-inch thick insulation board, maybe 2 feet wide, could organize an entire workbench full of small tools. The foam lasted for years, and you could rearrange the layout anytime you wanted by just pulling the tools out and pushing them into new spots. Plastic milk jugs as scoops and storage containers. Cut a gallon milk jug at an angle just below the handle, leaving the handle intact, and you had a free heavy-duty scoop perfect for dog food, bird seed, ice melt, fertilizer, potting soil, or anything else stored in a big bag. Leave the cap on the spout end to keep contents from spilling when you set the scoop down. Some folks cut the jug differently, taking off just the top to create open-top storage bins for clothespins, craft supplies, or small garden tools. One family's weekly milk habit became an endless supply of free containers and scoops. The plastic held up surprisingly well, and when one finally cracked, another one was always waiting in the recycling bin. Paper towel holder for trash bag rolls. Mount an old paper towel holder on the inside of a cabinet door or on the garage wall and slide a roll of trash bags right onto it. Now you could pull off a bag the same way you'd tear off a paper towel. No more digging through a crumpled box trying to find where the next bag starts. Some people mounted two holders side by side, one for kitchen-sized bags and one for the big lawn and leaf bags. It was neat, tidy, and one of those tricks that made everyone who saw it say that is so obvious. Why didn't I think of that years ago? Cinder blocks and boards as instant shelving. This was the original budget shelving system, and it's been in use since at least the 1950s. Stack two cinder blocks on each end, lay a pine board or a piece of plywood across the top, stack two more blocks, lay another board, and repeat as high as you dared. No tools, no hardware, no special skills required. You could build a 6-foot-tall bookshelf in about 10 minutes. Every college dorm room, first apartment, hunting cabin, and country garage in America had at least one set of cinder block shelves. The holes in the blocks could even hold rolled-up posters, wine bottles, or small potted plants. It wasn't fancy, but it was free, it was sturdy, and it held everything you threw at it. Clothespins on a wire for glove and hat storage. String a piece of wire, twine, or clothesline across the mudroom wall near the back door and clip wooden clothespins along it at regular intervals. Now, every pair of work gloves, winter mittens, stocking caps, and scarves had a place to hang and air dry after coming in from the cold. Kids could reach the lower line, adults used the higher one, and nothing ended up in a soggy pile on the floor or stuffed into a basket where it would never dry. It worked in the laundry room for hanging socks and delicates too. A bag of clothespins cost about 50 cents, and the whole setup took 5 minutes from start to finish. Did any of these tricks just take you back to your grandparents' house? Let us know which one you're going to try. Old dresser drawers as underbed rolling storage. When a dresser finally gave out, its legs wobbly and its frame splitting at the joints, country folks didn't haul the whole thing to the dump. They pulled out the drawers first. Screw 4 small casters onto the bottom of each drawer, and now you had rolling underbed storage bins, perfectly sized for shoes, seasonal clothes, extra blankets, or holiday decorations. The original drawer pulls made them easy to slide in and out, and they nested perfectly because they were all the same dimensions. Some people added a coat of paint to freshen them up, but most just put them straight to work. A dead dresser could supply 3 or 4 bedrooms with underbed storage. Baby food jars for workshop small parts. Once the baby outgrew strained peas and mashed carrots, those little glass jars headed straight out to the workshop. Tiny screws, wire nuts, fuse links, cotter pins, finish nails, and all those fiddly little pieces that vanish inside a toolbox finally had a perfect home. Nail the metal lid to the underside of a shelf, screw the jar up into the lid, and you had a miniature version of the mason jar trick that worked beautifully for the smallest items in the shop. Some workshops had 50 or 60 baby food jars lining every shelf and rafter. A man with that setup could find a number 6 brass wood screw in 3 seconds flat, while his neighbor was still digging through a rusty coffee can. Binder clips for hanging things on pegboard. Standard pegboard hooks are great for tools with holes in the handle, but what about soft items like canvas pouches, sandpaper sheets, or Ziploc bags of mixed hardware? That's where binder clips came in. Clip a large binder clip onto the item, then hang the clip's silver wire handles right over a pegboard hook. Suddenly, anything could go on the pegboard. Tool rolls, instruction manuals, work gloves, safety glasses in a bag, you name it. A $3 box of assorted binder clips from the office supply aisle turned a basic pegboard into a storage system that could hold literally anything, not just tools with holes in them. Tennis balls as wall-mounted holders. Cut a 2-inch slit in a tennis ball with a utility knife, screw or glue it to the wall, and you had the goofiest little storage holder that actually worked surprisingly well. Squeeze the sides and the slit opens like a little mouth that can grip mail, keys, pens, sunglasses, a tape measure, or small tools. Adding googly eyes above the slit turned it into a funny little face that kids absolutely loved. Some people lined an entryway with 4 or 5 of them for the whole family's keys and sunglasses. A can of 3 old tennis balls from the garage gave you an instant set of wall-mounted storage pockets that cost nothing and always got a laugh from visitors. Galvanized bucket as a garden hose reel. Mount an old galvanized metal bucket flat against the wall of the shed or the side of the house using a couple of heavy screws or a mounting bracket. Coil the garden hose around the outside of the bucket and use the inside compartment to store the spray nozzle, a pair of garden gloves, hand pruners, and other small tools you always need when you're watering. No expensive hose reel required. Some folks mounted the bucket high enough that the hose could hang and drain completely after use, which kept it from freezing and cracking in winter. A rusty old bucket picked up for $2 at a yard sale did the same job as a $30 hose reel and honestly looked twice as charming hanging there on the garden wall. Thanks for joining us on this trip down memory lane. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and share it with a friend who grew up with a garage full of coffee cans and mason jars. And don't forget to subscribe.